Hello everyone, Eridos again. It's been a while since I've reviewed anything, so let's get down to a bit of a Blitz review here as I review a bunch of Duocons. And that is a bit of a complicated issue here because exactly what constitutes a Duocon? Because for all intensive purposes, the definition of a Duocon is two separate components that combine into one. But that leads us into a bit of a rabbit hole. Do we count all the Energon Autobots as Duocons, or are they technically combiners because they have their own separate robot modes, including their vehicle modes? And if we don't, do we count these two here? Um, do we count Safeguard from Animated as a Duocon? Do we count Cog here as a Duocon? Well, and also, do we count the recently released Micromaster teams as Duocons, since they are technically two pieces that combine into a single unit, despite having two separate robot modes? And anyway, I decided, in order to not go into this completely overcomplicated, try to hunt down things I don't really need in my collection, we are just going to basically go for a basic rundown. It has to be two vehicles that combine into a single robot mode, even if the individual vehicles turn into their own robot. And as for Cog here, he's a parts former. I'll be reviewing him with the other weaponizers another day. So anyway, with that long intro out of the way, let's actually look at these Duocons, which I will, of course, be sticking to anything released between Combiner Wars to Siege. So that way I don't have to dig out Safeguard because of that clear plastic issue. It's probably going to make it a little unorthodox. No, not unorthodox. Risky is the word I'm looking for there. First off, let's get these small ones out of the way with most recently released is Skytread. See, he has a nice jet mode for his upper torso bit. Bit of a lot of kibble under there, which kind of reminiscent of Skylinks. But then again, the way he transforms, that's kind of par for the course. And then Skytread's tank mode, and some people are going to point out this is not how the turrets are supposed to be on here. It's supposed to be that this big piece is supposed to be in this middle part here. Problem is that it's not in there too securely. That post is just way too short for that post and that hole there. Not to mention this brick here. This is the combiner connector. And while there is a dent in the rifle that allows it to sit, it doesn't sit down far enough for it to be secure. Not to mention, as you can see, there's a bunch of stress marks on this right here. So I am very reluctant to ever use this again. So I just keep it like this. I think that looks a little bit nicer too, for some reason or another. Of course, the pistol goes here. Pistol can also plug in on any of the ports there. And next we look at Battle Trap, or as they are known individually, Road Trap and Battle Slash. As you can see, Battle Slash is a helicopter of sorts, but that combiner port, that connector port there, just sticks out like a sore thumb. It looks very blocky. I can get this to spin quite nicely, but unfortunately it does take a little bit of positioning for this area right here. As for Road Trap, nice blue car. It does roll nicely. Let's sort of. Oh, crud. Hang on a second. Sorry. And you can see there's a bunch of detailing on top of here. This will be the chest of the individual robot mode, as well as this big brick on the end. Now then, can they dock together like the original Duocons? Because these were G1 characters. Well, you can rest Skytread's jet mode on top of his tank mode, but it's not really meant to do that. As for Battle Trap, again, there is no real way to connect them. There is a third-party kit for this that allows them to dock together, but as they were released by Hasbro, they're not meant to. So, before we get to Skytread, we're going to look at Road Trap and Battle Slash, because again, they have their own individual robot modes. I almost forgot to flip these out first. You gotta flip those out first. Gotta flip out his arms. Flip this, turn that around for the head, and take this whole section here and move it up like so. Split the legs. Fold these out like so. Fold those in. And there we have Road Trap. Oh, crud. I forgot. There is the little Prime Master gimmick, which you just plug it in right there in vehicle mode and it just sticks out like a sore thumb. Same with Battle Slash. It's just this little port right here. And it just stays there. Just a brick on the back there. Anyway, let's get down to transformation of this guy. Let's split this guy a bit. I'm gonna pull this down, flip these out, flip these all the way down, making sure that we get the connector port out of the way to form his pelvis. Flip these up. Flip that around. This one was already flipped around. I don't know how that happened. Flip these out. Flip that down. Flip the panel down. Flip out the head. Continue onward with the other arm. And fold it back up, make sure everything tabs in like it's supposed to. And there we have Battle Slash and Road Trap. As you can see, Road Trap is a nice little proportioned bot. Ball jointed knees. These aren't his ankles, these are technically his knees. Ball jointed hips, ball jointed shoulders, ball jointed elbows, so he has some good posability there. Nothing at the waist due to the combining gimmick, and his head does rotate. So nice posable there. Battle Slash, on the other hand, looks kind of blocky. His shoulders are ball jointed, but they're at a weird position, so it's kind of hard to get it to work right. There's this hinge here for transformation, ball jointed elbow. His hips are ball jointed, his knees are ball jointed. You can get him into some decent poses. His head also rotates, but he is the weaker of the two. So now that we're done with the obligatory robot mode of these guys, let's get them into their combined mode, or their full robot mode, Battle Trap. So we fold down the robot head, we fold out the bigger head, make sure that pegs in like it's supposed to. We fold up the legs and click them in like so. These become his new arms. and fold in that. Now, as for this back section, these arms here, there's a few ways to actually do this. I don't know what the official ways to do it is. I'm sure there is, but I see a lot of people do it like this. And this is how you're supposed to have it combined, how it's supposed to be transformed for the third-party kit, which gives them extra weapons and whatnot. So we'll just leave his upper torso there, and we'll take Road Trap, split him right in half, move his chest piece down to become his knees, move these back, tab that in. These are supposed to be folded down, but I leave them up, which gives him nice ankles. And we will do the same for the other side. Now then, before we put him back together, we'll go for Skytread. So we're gonna unplug his guns, pop this open. These tend to not sit too well unless you really push them in. So just keep that in mind. We'll flip out the pelvis, split the feet apart, and I'm going to hold this in because this is known to split, so I'm going to hold it in as I move it up like so, and close that section there for his legs. And finally, the upper torso, which we'll just unpeg these. Unpeg this. Well, first got to unpeg it from the body because it tabs in right here. Unpeg that. Fold the arms out. Fold the connector peg up. Fold these bits in to form a torso. Got to make sure that all that is lined up as it's supposed to be. Rotate the arms. Fold out the fists. Do the same on the other side, and fold down the nose cone to make the rest of the torso and expose the head. I like to keep these somewhat angled. So, yeah. And finally, we can leave these as is, or we can combine them to make a single rifle. So, in order to combine them, we just take both connectors and just peg them together. Unfortunately, Skytread does take a little bit of force, but he does go in nicely. But Battle Trap, on the other hand, because this is a rotating head, you have to hold the head in position or else it will rotate as you try to fit it into the connector. So there we have Battle Trap and Skytread. Now then, as you can see, Battle Trap has some interesting features because he has ball-jointed shoulders, ball-jointed elbows, ball-jointed hips, some decent knees, although this kibble does get in the way, and you have to contend with this piece right here, and ball-jointed ankles. He also has an ab crunch. Sort of. Kind of breaks his spine a little, but interesting. And of course he can rotate his head. Unfortunately, he comes with no accessories, considering that these sets were sold separately, not together. As for Skytread, he's a little bit more solid. His waist joint is below the connector, which makes the connector a little bit more solid. Shoulders are universal. Elbows almost 180, I wouldn't say that. Knees, 90 degrees, and some tilt and pivot in the ankles there. And of course, a ball-jointed head. So, decent posability for a deluxe class. And of course, he can hold his gun. He also has all these ports on his arms, his legs, his back. That is for the Battle Master gimmick. Weaponizer gimmick. Why did I say Battle Master? Well, anyway, I'm not going to demonstrate it here because we're just making this about the Duocons. And of course, can these two swap pants? Which they can do so. So we're just going to take Road Trap and put it into Sky Shadow's torso. Don't have to worry about his head rotating too much, but it does fit. And as for Battle Slash, just connect the port right there and it fits in a lot better. And yeah, that totally works. Granted, it works better on one than the other, but that's up to you. So anyway, now that we're done with these two, we are going to go for the bigger guys. And these were for Titan's Return. We have Sky Shadow and Overlord. And the interesting thing about these two, they're technically remolds of each other. Now then, if I recall, Sky Shadow was created first, but his mold was always intended to be Overlord. Now then, let's look at the tanks. As you can see, they are the exact same tank, just with minor sculpting on the bottom in differences. But other than that, they are the exact same mold with different colors, and I think the Sky Shadow one actually works better because it's more coherent. The barrel actually blends, the gun blends in better to the tank than it does on Overlord, which has this big purple chunk on the main tank body. But again, they are exactly the same. The major difference is the jets. First off, let's look at Sky Shadow. And here's the thing about Sky Shadow. Sky Shadow was not a Duocon originally. This was his vehicle mode in the original G1 continuity. Granted, he never came to the US, to my knowledge, but what can you do? It's really nicely detailed. And we'll talk about this later. Got some nice silver guns on the side. Nice wing sculpts. Got some tail fins there. The opening cockpit here, which has his headmaster, or Titan Master as they call it. And then there's this little section, which of course in the G1 as well detaches to make this little drone-like thing, which again the Titan Master can just sit in there. There's also another place you can stick this in the vehicle mode. As you can see, there is a little hole there that goes to that Titan Master port. You just plug that in like so, and it sits nicely on top of the vehicle. And that is because that clip on the bottom tabs in right there. So you can actually, unlike the other two I showed you, make him dock to his vehicle, to the other vehicle. And yes, since this is a remold, you can do the same here. It's a little harder to line up because of the color difference. But yeah, that totally works. You can actually, unlike any other Duocon that's been released so far, have him dock. And this was intended from the beginning. You can see this kind of works better as the cockpit up there. So we're going to leave him to the side and we're going to look at Overlord's jet, and you can see the stark difference in the molding. It's a completely different style jet. It doesn't have the wings, but it has these giant thrusters. It doesn't have any of the tail fins. And it doesn't have the little drone. Instead it has this larger nose cone. And it has the cockpit, which opens a lot harder than the original one, than the Sky Shadow does. And there's his little Titan Master. Now then, can he dock to his tank? Well, you see there are tabs here. This is intended for a different gimmick we'll get into a little later. And there are slots on each side of the tank. The problem, whereas it does seem like this was intended from the beginning, it doesn't really hold on too well. That's how it's supposed to look, but it doesn't really hold. Yeah. So with that out of the way, we're going to get to transformation, and they do have a secondary transformation, which requires us to start by transforming these. I'm going to have to take this guy out for now. Oh wait, I need that open still because I need to pop this panel open. I'm going to rip this off, flip it around, stick it on the other side, and then we're going to pop these sections out because these hold in this hinge right here, which flips out like so. We take this, plug it in, then we rotate the leg like so, flip this down and over like so, do the same to the other side, and we are going to flip out these little panels in here, which are ramps. These are meant to connect to larger cities like Duocon. I'm not going to demonstrate this here because Duocon is way too big. Now then, while it looks okay, it's kind of unsteady. In order to steady it, you have to slide down these little things here in order to give it more stability, and then you take the cannon and plug it in to the hole like so, and there you have the base mode, which is nicely detailed, if I do say so myself. Disclaimer though, this sticker was not originally on here. This is a repo label I put on there to give this blank panel some more personality. As for Sky Shadow, we're gonna have to rip them apart again. Do the same with the tank section. We're just gonna set that aside. And this is another major difference, is that first off, gotta plug this back in. Okay, I need to find where the clip is because it's kind of hard to do this on camera. Okay, flip that back down. Well, I had it up, so it doesn't matter. Take these panels and flip them out like so. Fortunately, these are a little bit more secure. Flip that down. And major difference is that we take the nose cone and flip it up like so. And flip down that, and we'll take his headmaster and put him off to the side. Then we take the arms, these sections, and just flip them out. And there is 2 hinges in these sections, so you gotta make sure you get the right hinge. Then we plug this in like so, and then we again rotate these sections and click them into place. This goes in, but according to the instructions, this stays out. And as you can see, that is a stark contrast to the Overlord. And of course, we got to put the cannon on that port, which if I can just get it in there. There we go. And there's a groove under the cannon to accommodate the tail fin. So as you can see, that is a stark difference in the base transformation. This is a lot more narrower but higher. And I flipped up that panel. I'll deal with that right now. Whereas this is much wider and shorter. So it is vastly different. And I also forgot to flip out the ramps, but I'm not going to bother with the ramps right now because we are going to have to go into robot mode. So let's just flip those ramps right back on Overlord and remove this, rip this off completely. Now then, we gotta take, before we fold these in, gotta dig out this little peg here, flip that like so. If I folded these legs in before I folded this out, it would be near impossible to get it back out. We're just going to set that off to the side. Going to unpeg the arms, flip the torso down, move these back in to lock the back section, fold these and rotate them forward again, flip the feet out like so. And then we're gonna pull these out all the way, fold in the fins, fold out the fist, take this section here and, oh yeah, kind of the problem is that these things don't stay pegged in too well. Okay, we gotta fold that in all the way, and we're going to rotate his head, flip open the helmet. I'm going to take the little guy here, fold him up like so, and he becomes the head. So you flip down the helmet. We take this section and peg it in right on his shoulder, and we take the cannon and put it in his hand. And we have Overlord. Let me move the camera up a bit. Now that that's over with, let's go to Sky Shadow. So we're going to flip these panels up after unplugging the cannon. Fold the cockpit up, unplug this. Fold these back just a little. Take this hinge and fold it up like so. We're going to try our best to get his legs back into their original position and do the exact same thing we did with Overlord. And snap that in place. Fold the toes out even more here. Yeah, there is an issue with his hips. As you can see, they're just very loose on mine. So we're gonna pull these down, fold out the fist, and we're gonna take this right here, fold the peg down, and just get it into his arm. Now then, you can try to peg the cannon into this little shield, but the connection is just not solid at all. I think it used to be solid like it was on the that Soundwave I reviewed, but it's not really solid anymore. So I just leave it like this, make it a little buckler or something like that. Rotate the head, take his little driver and fold it up, and there we have Sky Shadow. As you can see, these are remolds of each other, but the aesthetics are just completely different. The chest is different, the torso's different, the arms are different. The only similarity are the shins. That's it. And I think there is some elements of the helmet that carried over between the two, but there is enough resculpting that actually does change it a bit. Now then, Overlord does have an extra gimmick because he is a transition figure, because he was built to hold Prime Masters, and this was before Power of the Primes came out. So what I have here is Megatronus Prime and Solaris Prime. Yeah, creation and destruction, and if you know the backstory between these two, this is kind of ironic. And they just plug into his chest like so. You can't really close his panels up properly with these in here. You could put headmasters in there, but that would just be weird. But there is something else you can do. You can take this, and you can see there is a peg there and a slot there, and you just plug that in like chest armor. You could fold them back underneath this section, but I just like to sometimes keep it out like that. But I think this just looks better. Like, no, it doesn't plug in like it's supposed to if you do that. So you gotta keep them out like that. Now then, before we finish, can they swap pants like the others can? Well, they're remolds, so it's basically just the exact same connection port. So yeah, they can swap pants. And not only that, if we really want to go the extra mile, since these are Titan Masters, they can also swap faces. There we go. So that, my friends, is a review of all the Duocons we've gotten so far in the recent retail line. Hope you had a fun time going down this little rabbit hole, and hope to see you guys again next video. Bye!